Hi and welcome to the first card in June's card class. It features the Hues of Happiness Designer Series paper, and for the first card design we are going to create a wreath out of some of the leaves that have been cut from the Designer Series paper. One of the good things about this set is the dies, the Blossoming Happiness dies, actually coordinate with the stamp set and the papers. So what I have done is I have fussy cut around the images on the papers, but what you can do if you'd rather, you can use the dies to cut them out instead. But it's entirely up to you how you do that. So I'm going to talk you through how we make this card. You're going to need a piece of polished pink card for your card base. This is a standard book fold card base, a C6 size, and that's a book fold, so it opens like a book. For your background layer, I've actually used a piece of the Designer Series paper. It's on the reverse of this lovely rainbow cross pattern paper, and if I talk you through the sheet that you have in your kit, it looks like this. We're basically going to use this section here, so it moves from kind of pinks and yellows through to purples and blues. So we're going to use the piece that is up here to start us off, so be mindful how you cut that. You don't need to worry too much about the direction of your Designer Series paper because you're quite literally just going to see a little outline of it. Okay, all the measurements for the card and paper layers can be found in your measurement guide. If you're watching this video, then the good news is you would have found that measurement guide. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that piece of Designer Series paper onto our card front to kick us off. Excuse me, I've got a real tickle at the moment. And then we're going to put that piece to one side for a moment, and we're going to work on this front section. So for the front section, you're going to need this piece of basic white card. Again, the measurement is in your measurement guide, and we're going to start by drawing a little thin border around the card using a black fine line pen. Now this is an old Stampin' Up journaling pen. You can use a basic right marker, or you can use just a general black fine line pen. There's some really good ones on the market, but the Stampin' Up ones are pretty fab as well. So I've just doodled a hand-drawn line around the edge. That it's not perfect, but it's not meant to be. And then we're going to start building our wreath. So you're going to need a pencil for this next part, and you're going to need, from your die cut and extra pack, this circle die. Now we're not going to use this die cut, we're just going to use it as a template to draw around. So I've turned it over so we've got the rough side, and then I'm going to place it in the top sort of section of the card, and I'm quite literally just going to really lightly draw around it. Now don't worry too much about that pencil line, we're not going to see it because that's what we're going to use as our guide for creating this circle wreath here. You can go ahead and put that to one side. Now you're going to need that for the very last card in today's card class. The next part we're going to do, to build our wreath, we are going to use a selection of these leaves to layer around our circle. Okay. It doesn't matter too much where you start. I personally started under this section here because you're not going to need too many leaves around here, as that's what we're going to overlay these flowers onto. For my leaves, I have used wet glue or liquid glue, sorry, to adhere the leaves to the circle. And what I've actually done is I've just added the glue to the stems, because what you'll find on the card, the leaves are pretty free-flowing actually, and it just adds a little bit more texture and dimension to your card, makes it feel a little bit more realistic. So I've added my first leaf to kick us off, and then I'm going to just add in the rest of my leaves following the circle round. Okay. Now the leaves on the Designer Series paper, have got this lovely sort of different coloured greens built in, so you get a lovely sort of lovely colour palette to the leaves that you are using. Now it takes a little bit of time to get it as you would like it, but just be patient and follow it round and it will soon start to look like a wreath. Big fan of wreaths and making wreaths that can fit on my cards. It's amazing what you can use to create a wreath. You just need that starting circle shape. It's quite therapeutic as well to do something like this. It's at this point that I don't want anything to happen to my video, because I wouldn't want to have to recut all these leaves. I mean, it's a definite labour of love. That's it. And then basically stop when you get around to this section here, because we're going to put our flowers on. Okay, so we've got sort of 3/4 of our leaf of our wreath done. I'm going to put that to one side, and then we're going to bring in some flowers. So I have cut out a large pink flower and a yellow rose. But before I stick that on, I'm going to bring my card base back in, and I'm going to stick the white piece to the card front. So we've got that lovely pattern just showing through in the pinks and the yellows, and then we're going to highlight those colours with the addition of this pink and yellow leaf. So for this, pink and yellow flower, I'm going to attach the yellow one so that it is flat in my background, and I'm just going to pick up one of those leaves to sort of overlap it a little bit, and then this pink flower I'm going to stick down using a dimensional for a little bit of definition. And that's going to be added around about there. If you wanted to, you could by all means add another leaf just to make it a little bit more detailed. I've got one left over, so that must be made to go in there. Okay, so 2 things left to do for this card. I have my middle piece, which also has that lovely black border drawn around. I'm going to repeat what I did on the front of the card on this middle piece. Oh no, there's a leaf there that got away. Like so. And then you'll notice on here, the sentiment that I've used, it just says sending thanks. So on the Happiness Abounds stamp set, you'll notice there isn't one that says sending thanks. So what I've actually done is I've doctored the stamp ever so slightly. I'm going to show you how I did that in a moment, to create just that little sending thanks, almost kind of simplifying that sentiment. So I'm going to pull out our sending many thanks for all you do. Adding that to my block, and then using an old olive ink pad, I've got a piece of scrap white here, and I'm going to stamp this like so. I'm actually going to stamp it twice because of the way the stamp is designed, it's quite tricky to cut it out when you've only stamped it the once. So the first thing I'm going to do down here is I'm going to cut out this thanks, and then on the second one I'm going to trim off the word sending, trim that down into a banner, and then for the thanks I'm just going to trim around it, just following the way it's been written. Love the swirly fonts, big fan of sentiments that have mixed fonts. It's very, very popular at the moment in a lot of different things that you see in the market, not just stamps but in sort of general advertising. Be careful not to cut your fingers off, of course. It is very fiddly. You don't have to do this, of course. You can by all means add any sentiment you wish. And here we go. So I've got my sending thanks. So now I'm going to arrange this sentiment so that it sits on top of my little flower. Like so, and there we have it. That is our first card design of this month's card class, all complete. I hope you liked it. Bye for now.